Welcome to the Amateur Traveler Video Edition. I'm your host, Chris Christensen, and this is a tour of the Panama Canal Zone.
1999, because in the 7th of September of the year 1977, it was signed between Panama and US a treaty. That treaty was the Canal Treaty, signing with Jimmy Carter from US and Omar Torrijos from Panama.
While we were in Panama, we did a tour by tour bus, and that was our tour guide, and small ferry of the canal zone. So our cruise ship went into the canal and then back out to the Caribbean side, but we went all the way through to the Pacific side. I loved this particular dredger here with the name Christensen on it. I don't know why, but the Panama Canal itself needs to be redredged periodically to keep its depth so that ships can continue to flow through it freely.
Administrator of the Panama Canal when the treaty went into effect in 1979. McCollum, with the deputy Panamanian administrator, started
We're just entering Gaylord Cut or Culebra Cut, which is the place where more people died in building the Panama Canal. Remember, the death toll was well over 20,000 people between the French and the American efforts. It really doesn't look like much right now. Of course, we're obviously not seeing all of the work that was done because some of it is covered by water at this point. It's hard to picture just what kind of a wild jungle this was at the time of the canal's construction.
Okay, so the first intent to build the canal is the French.
Of course, if you do go to the canal zone, you may be reminded again why the canal is here, and that is water. Not just because it's the shortest path, but because there's enough water, enough rain, over 300 inches a year, to power the canal. The canal is powered by water. And so if you go to the canal, you may get wet because it is very likely to rain. It rains most days. Of course, these days on one of these tours, the biggest problem is that the line for the buffet is a little long. We're entering into the locks on the Pacific side of the canal. This would be the first of 3 locks. And we showed in the last video, in episode 39, how slow the locks can be. So this one is sped up by 4 times. You can see there are 2 different gates. Since this is a smaller boat, they're going to close 2 different gates so they can save water. As they lower the water level, they won't have to do it in the entire lock. And they'll do this for the ferries, but they wouldn't do it for a cruise ship, for instance, which would take the entire length of the lock. And even sped up 4 times, it takes a while to get through the locks, so we're going to skip just a little bit of that as we leave the first set of locks and come into the last set before we come to the Pacific Ocean. You can see with the ferries, the way it's going to work is we're going to tie up to the side, and so our boatman here is got his bow line ready to throw it to somebody on the shore so that we can tie up behind this other ferry. They're going to pass both ferries through the locks at the same times. So we're now entering into the lock here. We'll pull up behind this other ferry and get ready to go down all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And we're all tied up and ready to go. And so the water level will start to drop, again, fairly slowly, so we've sped this thing up 4 times. But you can see that you get a very different view of the canal from a small boat like this than we did from the big cruise ship in episode 39. You're down in and amongst the canal rather than looking down on it from the high deck. And this boat is taking a pilot to one of the ships that's trying to pass through the canal. Only a pilot can take you through the canal. You can see our friends on the other ferry are getting ready to go here, and here finally the gates are opening and we're out into the Pacific Ocean. You can see Panama City in the background, and then a very busy port city here at the Pacific terminus of the canal. The canal itself actually goes out for a number of miles here into the ocean, in the sense that you would need a pilot, especially on a larger boat, to go this far out, even as far past the bridge until the canal officially ends. So the canal actually continues on in terms of the right-of-way out into the ocean. And with that, we'll bring this episode of the Amateur Traveler Video Edition to a close. Be sure to check out the weekly audio edition, as well as other video episodes, at amateurtraveler.com. And thanks so much for watching.